Augmenters. I'm Julie.
And I'm Jimmy.
And we believe that mentoring is the key to augmenting your leadership. And today we are joined by Mike Fata, a 9-figure entrepreneur, author, health advocate, and host of the fantastic Founder to Mentor podcast.
On this episode, you will learn how to connect better with others using the mantra, make friends first, do business second. Also, we dive into how to grow to your potential with a simple tactic, just make time on your calendar. Sounds easy, but is it really that basic? This entire episode is under the theme of vision. It is the first principle of AugMentors. This episode will help you find purpose in your mentoring. Here we go.
Mike Fata, thank you so much for joining us on AugMentors today. We're thrilled to have you. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Well, honestly, I just reached out because I was so excited that you have a podcast that also talks about mentoring, Founder to Mentor podcast. And then I started listening. I listened to tons of episodes. I dug in. And now we're super extra excited to have you on because not only are you a phenomenal podcaster, you have a phenomenal history as well.
I do like mentoring, so we have that in common.
I can tell we were supposed to talk today, Mike, because you're rocking an Under Armour shirt. And given that's one of the two prides of Baltimore, you know,
I wore the right company uniform.
Yeah, we don't have Augmentors company uniforms. We just rock the cities we're in.
Totally. So, Mike, as we get to know you, we always ask this question as a way to introduce for our guests to introduce themselves. Many of our guests say that they have a mentor who believed in them before they believed in themselves, and we'd love to know who that was for you and what they saw in you before you saw anything in yourself.
Well, the first one definitely was my mom, and I didn't have I grew up with a single mom, didn't have a very conventional path growing up, but my mom believed in me, and one of the big things that she shared in me was that my gift of being able to see things in the future and have a clear vision, and even if there was 1,000 steps required to get to that end goal or end place. She saw that in me, that I had that gift even when I was young, but then supported me from when I wanted to drop out of school, ultimately at 14. And when I started the business at 21, she showed me how to incorporate a company and so all the way along, and including, thankfully, getting to work directly with her. She worked for the company for 7 years. So my mom, number one, but I'm very grateful that I've had 3 or 4 major mentors in my life.
Phenomenal. We love hearing about moms coming out and supporting. And it's not as often that we hear about moms also getting their hands dirty at the same time in an operational role. How is that balancing so many different relationships with one individual, family, but mom, AKA the most important, and then business, mentor, etc.?
Yeah. It was very interesting, I didn't, because I didn't go to high school or university, I didn't know anything about business. So when I started the business, the person I could trust the most was my mom, and saying like, how does this, and she was not in consumer packaged goods, but she was in consumer packaged good retail, worked for Shoppers Drug Mart in Canada. And so had a rich understanding of the industry. And so every question that I had, she had some kind of answer for them. And so it was really helpful in the first kind of 5 years in business to get us to the kind of the first $1 million. Then I felt like I knew what I was doing. But she came in 2 or 3 times to save me when she was an accountant. And when I had to replace my head of finance, or there was an issue with the finance team, she swooped in, helped me restructure things, and maybe was even a temporary employee or team member until we found the next great hire. But then around the time we were about 12, 13 years in the business, so maybe we were about a $20, $30 million business, I had the opportunity to say, hey, Mom, after her 25-year career at Shoppers Drug Mart, we have a full-time role for you on the team. And so for the last 7 years that we had the business, she was either our number 1 or number 2 in finance. And
wow.
It's pretty special that she was still a mentor, but I think she realized then that I had learned a tremendous amount in business, and I even could coach and mentor her in some of the aspects of just how much she grew at that stage of her career.
That is incredible, Mike. That is incredible. Did she have any catchphrase? Was there something that she always said to you?
Please tell me it's your baby's nickname for yourself, where, she was like, go get him in the board meeting.
No, you know what it was like. She would tell me, no one's special, but we're all special. Like anything is really possible with hard work. Again, she was a single mom, raised my brother and I, worked and then went to a night school to better her accounting career. And so she was just like, hey, you can get things done just by hard work, and fully transfer that to me. And so I'm a big believer in that. You don't need rich parents. You don't need a Ivy League school degree to be successful as a business person or an entrepreneur. You could just do it from finding your passion and a tremendous amount of hard work for a long time. You can literally move mountains. And so she constantly, and not only to me, but others around her, would feel empowered to just personally grow and professionally grow.
That's incredible. That is incredible. And that is so true, right? I think there's so much, especially, in your work now with other founders and being part of the founder community. I think that is just the DNA, right? Is just, you just have to get started and you just have to get it done. So to have that already in your family, both my parents are also business owners. They both started their own professional services businesses, which I later started. And it was, they were absolutely my mentors because they're just like, this is what you do. You don't wait for somebody to give you a job. You just make a job and you just decide that's what you're going to do. So I think having that is so valuable. And you mentioned, maybe 3 or 4 other mentors that you had outside of your mom. Who are some other folks and what did they bring to your journey?
Yeah. By the time that I kind of started to figure out what I was doing in business, I realized that I needed to become, strong in each department of the business. And I like to think of departments in business, right? Like I need to be strong in sales and marketing and operations and finance. And so my mom was a good finance mentor for me all the way along the business career. But when I kind of tuned into that, I thought, oh, okay, I need a strong sales person around me. And I was just so fortunate to, one of the call it old guard in the natural products industry that I befriended, and John Anthony. And he was just a super salesperson. He was the VP of sales for some major brands through their major growth stage, like Nature's Path, like Kettle Chips, like Cliff Bar. And so he knew everything about sales specific to consumer packaged goods product and especially the natural products industry, and was just a great mentor. And then from there, Mark Ragland, I got together with, and Mark is just a marketing genius, marketing expert. His whole career was in marketing. Same thing. He was the head of marketing for a number of businesses, first being Adwala back in the day, and grew that company rapidly. And so, when I had a question about how does this work in marketing, I could turn to him. And then from an operations standpoint, more so, it was a CEO peer, but, their business was just a couple of years ahead of us. So Ryan Black, the founder of Sambazon, really showed me how to grow a business operationally and administratively. And he had some of that formal education, but also was just, a couple of years ahead from a business growth standpoint. So between those 4, I had a all-star mentor, and I wish that for everybody. That's not always the way that mentorship works. Sometimes it's one person in your life or whatever, but I did have 4. I covered all my bases, or covered all the departments, and I couldn't have grown a business to $100 million without those 4 people in my life.
May I fanboy out for a second here and just ask if one of your colleagues, maybe not mentors now, is Roger Martin at U Toronto? I see that you are associated with University of Toronto these days. Do you know Roger at all?
I'm not sure if I know Roger. I think maybe I know too many people by face and maybe the names. I did go to the Rotman School of Business for my director's education, and so I met a number of people through my class and around the organization, but it doesn't fully come to mind.
Gotcha. He's it's kind of an aside. He was like, I guess, the dean there at one time. He hasn't been there since like 2013 as much, but I love how he breaks down strategy and planning and tries to end the bastardization of those 2 words. And I usually use one of his YouTube videos in my course. So I was like, wait, you might know this guy? This guy's awesome. So
I did have fun after being a high school dropout, finally going back to school 35 years later to get my certification as a board member and director. So think highly of the school because they have a great program there.
I would love to deep dive on these mentors because as we're talking about founders, as they are looking to build, I mean, how brilliant to say, okay, this is my strength. This is where I got it. This is where I don't got it. And like, who do I find? You absolutely did what you're supposed to do, the best in the business. How did you approach them? How did you reach out, and what, at least 1 or 2, sort of, what did that look like?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in make friends first, do business second. And that's the number one question I get asked is like, hey, I need a mentor. Where do I find my mentor? I always say, your mentors are playing the same game as you are. So trade shows have been a big part of my life as a not only as a business owner, but someone that just enjoys being social and out there with others in the community. And so I met all three at trade shows, and went out and had dinner and created a friendship, and ultimately had friends in common, and that just led to it wasn't like, hey, will you be my mentor? I didn't even understand the term mentor until well after we were already in this space where I had a call line if I needed it, and I had a question, and then we got into a regular cadence of discussions, and then actually all three of them, I asked them to join my board of directors, and so they became formal board members and formal mentors to me for the kind of second stage of our relationship.
I just got asked this question yesterday by someone who just got her MBA. She's got work experience, some great companies. And she was like, I'm trying to balance whether I start a career or I become an entrepreneur. And I'm like, I don't know if those are like, two different apples you're trying to choose from here. Like, let's get into this more. And I know one of the questions that you like to challenge people to ask themselves is, who are people in the field that you're passionate about already? And, now that you're saying make friends first, do business second, but how did you go about trying to understand where your passion was? I have a feeling that as an 18-year-old, you weren't like, hemp hearts, that's the thing. I need to do this every day, and this will be the best day of my life. Like, how did you start to? Julie's like, well, I don't know, hemp hearts.
I mean, maybe.
Right? And maybe I could be wrong. You school me if so. But I'm just kind of curious. Like when someone goes, well, how did you figure out that passion?
Yeah, I hit rock bottom. Is how I figured out what I wanted to not do, and then that led for me what I wanted to do. I weighed 300 pounds when I was 18 years old, fell prey to fast food before that, and gained a lot of weight and just felt horrible all the time. And when I started my health journey, personally, I started feeling so good after I shed over 100 pounds and got stronger that all I wanted to do was talk about health all day long. So what led me to hemp and selling hemp hearts was that I discovered hemp was a very healthy seed. And I'm like, game on, this is already, hemp was bastardized because of, it was a relationship with marijuana. And so I felt extra special. Like I could stand up for that. I could champion that, but also like, oh, people just don't know this is the healthiest seed. This is one of the healthiest seeds on the planet. And it was health. So I found my passion for health, and that's what led me into the health business. But I'm very conscious, and I tell other, either entrepreneurs or people that are seeking out maybe even being an entrepreneur, or if they're even just working for someone else, like find out what you're passionate about. You need to nibble on a whole bunch of things potentially. Like you could, it could be sports, it could be science, it could be, and like figure out what you would spend your day doing if you weren't getting paid for it, even like you like it that much. And then is there a role somewhere? Is there a problem you can solve yourself as an entrepreneur to get into that type of business? Because I believe you're going to be happiest. And I like the term best day ever. You're going to live your best day ever when you align your personal passions with an opportunity to make money.
I love it. I've said this story to Julie before. I don't know if I've said it on the show, where my grandfather was a college basketball coach. He was actually offered the job at UCLA to coach basketball there a couple of years before John Wooden, a very famous basketball coach who went on to win lots and lots of basketball championships. He turned it down because he didn't want to recruit. And he told my grandmother, why would I want that job? I have the best day ever here. They pay me to coach basketball. Why would I leave this? Even for something potentially grander. So you just like literally said that.
And that's to the point when, the question you were being asked, and I have an exercise in my book about the best day ever, because I think it's a mindful practice, right? Like how do you want to spend your day? Work out how you want to spend your day. I could tell you down to the detail, because I've been working on my best day ever for 25 years, like how I really want to spend my days. And then the majority of my days now, I'm closer to the target of spending it that way. How much I want to exercise, who I want to spend time with, what projects, what work I want to be working on. And so even going through that, people can find like, what do you want to do next in your career? Or like, what kind of business? Is there a business for you to start? Well,
so step one, we got come on the AugMentors podcast. We appreciate you doing that today. We're building best day ever. If you could share, Mike, we'd love to hear a little bit more. Or if you wanted to put Julie right now is definitely working on her best day ever in some transitions of her business boss bitch life.
I said that.
I'm just quoting. Don't shoot the messenger. Do you have something like really quick that we could chew on together?
On the best day ever?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it starts with sleep. How much sleep do I need to be to have my best day ever? And it's like 8 hours of sleep. And I used to tell myself, I could be less than that. So it starts with sleep, but health is a big piece for me. And my whole health routine is about 2.5 hours a day. And not to say that I can get to do that every day, but the full 2.5 hours of warm up exercises, weight training, cardio. I love sauna. I love cold plunges, and like all these things that make me not feel as old as I am, or take away some of my health challenges that I faced in the past. I also love food. I love growing food. I'm an organic gardener. I love preparing food, like visually, I love eating it. And so that part of my day, and it's probably an hour and a half of mindfulness around food. And then I like to work. Even though I've created success for myself, I enjoy building things, building companies. I'm still a recovering entrepreneur, so I'm not fit to operate a business. But after 25 years of being an entrepreneur, but I do like to build. And so, probably 4 or 5 hours a day of deep work, and like doing it so that I'm not sitting. I used to like in front of a desk and work 8 hours a day. Work 10 hours a day. That's not impactful. I want a good 4 or 5 hour chunk of deep work, and I'll accomplish twice as much as I could before. And then fun. There's always that I want to be fired up, and to do that, there needs to be fun in life, and fun is a range of activities for me. That's the basis of my best day ever. I encourage everyone, because I know everyone's best day ever is different, but if you actually write down the different 5 or 6 different buckets that make up your best day ever, it'll be a good lens to look through of where you are right now, what's the gap to get to that best day ever, and then just start plucking away at it, start changing things and trying things out.
This is so crucial because there's 2 things. One, I love that because usually when I do meet younger people, so I have a daughter who's about to graduate college, and I have another to graduate high school, and like a lot of their friends are, chatting about what they want to do. And I would say, like, what do you actually want your day to look like? Where do you want to physically be? Do you want to be in a big office? Do you want to be, like these moments of just like what you wake up in the morning, where are you going? Do you want to be out all the time? That is so, so helpful. And I also think giving ourselves permission to actually have our best day ever, because I think there's this idea that work has to be miserable, or like life has to be miserable. We have to do these jobs that we hate so that we get money, so that we can do the next thing. Whereas like, look at the incredible success of like really saying, what do I really care about? And I think breaking that mentality of like, we have to be miserable, or like, it's just going to be fine. Like it might not be great, but it's going to be fine, and continuing to take those steps.
Yeah, it's a old paradigm, right? Like you're supposed to go to school and then go to graduate school and then get a job that you're going to settle down into that career for 40 years, find the person that you love, have a family, happily ever after. And guess what? Majority of people don't live that. And so the newer generations are realizing there's a million different ways to do it. So be mindful. What is your way? And yeah, sometimes it's a mentor could be not someone that's directly connected to you, but that you admire from afar some of their lifestyle, and you're like, I want pieces of that lifestyle for my best day ever. Okay, I'm going to borrow from that, and I'm going to try it on and see if it fits my best day ever. And then time goes by to get at that, and you're there, you're living your best day, hopefully for the majority of your life, right?
I love it. I know as soon as you said best day ever, sleep 8 hours, I was like, well, if it's only one day, I'm not going to sleep. Like it's going to be the best day. I'm going to use all 24. But I now realize it's the sustainable best day ever.
Well, I like to think of that because when I was younger, I was, and not well educated and then, not in my healthiest space. I used to live more for like the last day, or this was the day. And I've framed that to think, live like it's your last day on earth, all while planning for another 50 years. Is a good kind of mindset to go about it. So do that adventurous thing. Just don't be reckless, because you got to be sustainable for another number of decades.
You need those knees. Both of them.
You actually, Mike, I don't know if you meant to do this, but that quote about live every day as your best day, yet plan, or your last day, plan for 50 years. I don't know if you know the Mac Miller song, Best Day Ever.
I was thinking One Direction the whole time we've been talking, but you go ahead.
No.
There's also a song called The Best Day by Taylor Swift. So I kind of feel like you basically just said, plan as if you're going to live for 50 more years, Taylor, Swifties, and then Mac Miller is, live your best day. So it's hard to keep both of those in line. How do you try to balance that you have a mantra for telling yourself like, yes, I'm going to do this cold plunge, but I'm not going to ride on the back of the moose?
Yeah, I've tried a lot of things on for size for me, and then figure out what works. So I explain to my kids like this: how are you going to expand your diet? Well, you have to expand your palate, and you have to nibble on a number of things, right? You have to try a number of things, a number of foods, to figure out what you like and what you don't like, and what makes you feel good and gives you energy and all that stuff. Same thing for life. I think being a personal guinea pig on yourself and taking these ideas from mentors or from the community, trying it on and say, does that piece work for me? Give it a chance. And so I've done a number of changes in my life to try to, and that changes as you get older too. But I think you have to get outside your box. So I've been a purist and not so much fun, and be like, I could just, all work and no play makes, Mike more successful, but not as happy. So that's not my best day ever. And yeah, if you drop everything right now to go on a hot air balloon ride, if you had that chance, you should go do that kind of stuff, because we only get one life. So
I'll come pick you up, Jimmy. I'll be right there in the hot air balloon. We'll pick up Mike. We'll go to Canada. We'll come down. Hot air ballooning, 4:00.
Have you ever been in a hot air balloon?
I have not, but I would, yeah.
It's a wonderful experience. I got a chance to, I think 6-7 years ago, to go to New Mexico, and there's a 500 balloon festival there. I don't remember what the name is right off the top of my head, but I got at 4:00 in the morning, got up to go, and I was in the air with 500 other balloons, and what an
sunrise.
Experience. Like, yeah, it's just and over this beautiful valley and river and stuff. Mind opening, total flow state moment, and I'll hold that memory for the rest of my life. That kind of stuff, like those once in a lifetime opportunities. You got to seize those instead of just being at your desk or doing your normal, even if it's once a year, one big thing, it'll fine tune you, and you can add up those experiences to have 50 or 75 wonderful ones across your life.
I was stretching as you were talking. I have a standing desk, and you started mentioning the hot air balloons. So now both feet are on the ground, and I'm holding my desk. So hard pass for me on the hot air balloon with everything else up in the air.
But I also think being open to change, Mike, what you're saying, because I know I had like very firm beliefs about myself or things that I was like, no, I'm a city person. Like I love cities. That's what, and then now I'm like, oh, but like, it's kind of nice when it's quiet, like I think we have these beliefs, like I'm somebody who works all the time and I'm somebody who's going to grow businesses. And then it's like, or I could be somebody who just does this part and let somebody else do the other part. So I think being open to how we change and evolve. And I think mentors are a great way, especially ones that we've had for many years over a lifetime, is that they see you and they allow you to open to change. And they've known you a long time. So I love that, like just being comfortable with trying things on, which I think sometimes as we get older, we are, very firm in our beliefs about ourselves.
Yeah, we're constantly growing, right? We grow until we die. One of the things that I like to just remind myself is yesterday's dead. It doesn't happen anymore. Let yesterday fully die, and then be the change today, whatever that is. And I think if people ask like the discipline and stuff to lose a bunch of weight and then get into business and be successful, all those things are just being aggressive with like, hey, how much can you change in one day, in 1 week, in 1 month? And the only way to do that is not be too attached to your past. You got to let the past go. It's done already.
So Jimmy, you're no longer going to be scared of hot air ballooning, and I'm going to come pick you up. Maybe not this week, maybe next week. I think I understand. Land in Baltimore.
I understand now why I was rooting myself, because you just said that, Mike, and like yesterday is dead, and I'm like, I'm now going to tell Julie, yesterday's dead. I'm just a fun guy. I'm a mushroom just feeding off of yesterday. I'm going to stay right here. I'm good. I'm going to stay with the shrooms.
Time expands. Okay, Mike, I'd love to talk a little bit about mentoring and being a founder and mentoring, because I think some of the work that you currently do is working with founders who are in the natural food space. We'd love to hear a little bit more. What kind of advice do you have for sort of ex-founders or founders who are looking to mentor up-and-comers, and what are maybe some of the pitfalls?
Yeah, well, first you have to put yourself out there, because you could have great experience and you want to mentor, but the first step is like getting out there. So whether that's on social media, whether that's at a trade show, like go. It's the opposite, right? Go to the field where you probably the person that you're interested in mentoring is looking for a mentor. And if you actually engaged first, my biggest learning, I had some imposter syndrome, even when I became more of I won't say full-time mentor.
Imposter syndrome?
Yeah. Like every stage is, even until I'm like, okay, I'm giving back now fully. Oh, I'm an imposter for giving back fully. How is that possible? Well, because I thought I showed up as a mentor and I was supposed to have the answer, or, be helpful all the time. And I realized, no,
Wow.
I just should take the time to listen to what people are trying to do, and then tell them what I would do if I was in their situation, and not take it personal whether they take that advice or not. Right? Like, you're just giving perspective as a mentor. You don't have to know it all or be helpful. Be right or whatever all the time. And a lot of people I see stumble into that. Like, they could have frustration with a mentee just because the mentee doesn't take their advice. Well, guess what? It's their business. It's their life. They're just taking perspective from mentors, and then they get to execute it their way, right? So you can't have attachment to that. Those would be my couple points if for people that are thinking about it. And I got to a place where I just put time on my calendar I'm going to have, sometimes it's a quick chat with a founder, 20, 30 minutes, understand where they are in business and maybe a couple of the riddles they're trying to solve and add some perspective to them. Sometimes it's a long-term mentorship. Like, I've had some founders I've mentored for over 10 years now, and their business was like a startup, and now it's like a 8-figure business. And that has a lot of joy. That's almost like building my own company, being able to be that close. So, and then now some of the mass mentorship tools where I can go instead of one-to-one, one-to-many, feels like the legacy that I really want to build is like, you could be successful with helping others. You don't need to, like you said it, an exited founder or something, and now I want to start mentoring. No. You could be in business for 1 year as a founder, and guess what? You're already set to mentor someone that is thinking about starting a business, and that is some of the most fruitful stuff to give back, because it's natural for you because you just went through it in the last year. Those are the opportunities I think more people should look out for, because it is fulfilling.
I love it. I love the term mass mentoring tools. I hadn't thought about that before, and like that kind of scaling. I mean, scaling impact is obviously something.
I coined that. I trademarked it already. You can't use it.
Jimmy actually was trying to buy the URL while you were finishing that sentence.
One of our mass mentorship tools was written up in Forbes already, so it's like and they said mass mentorship right in the Forbes article, so it's off. It's off. You can't.
That's okay. We don't use the term mentorship on our podcast, so you can have that. I'll take mass mentoring tools.
You can collaborate.
Yeah, we do like nautical terms, but we don't use ships here. Yeah, we only want championships. I am curious, and this will tie back into wordplay in a minute, but you said live each day like your last day, but plan for the next 50 years. And now you just talked about how new different tech, I'm guessing, for mass mentoring tools, or maybe it's ways of how to engage a larger audience in person. Tell me, like, what's the one thing you think will be very different about mentoring relationships in 50 years? Like, if there's one thing that's going to change, maybe it's not what you think, but like what should happen if we're going to have the greatest impact of people kind of giving a shit about one another, which I think is like the core of mentoring.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think the tool is just surfacing right now, and it's happening already, but I think AI is going to be one of the biggest mentors. Right now, you have to know how AI can mentor you. I think in the future, AI will be mentoring you as your buddy or your friend, and know all about you already. I think that's going to be the change that we're fortunately going to see in our lifetime. What does that mean for the rest of mentors? You better find your mentee and start giving back now if you really want that in your life. Like, do it. That's the do it now, do it today, and don't wait, because you're not waiting. The game can really change for mentorship as well.
So when you think AI might be that tool, I'm trying to grasp my head about it, because if everybody has an AI, then everybody's AI feedback loop would be different and would coach differently. It would definitely be educational. It could also be a great listener, potentially. But does that mean we all grow to a higher basic level of understanding of each other, to a higher basic education? Does that mean we are more harmonious as individuals, do you think? Does that mean we are more part of machines or relying on electricity?
Well, the electricity one part got deep there. So I don't know. I'm not so sure about the electricity part, but I do think that, a big part of mentorship is subject matter expertise, right? If you're into soccer and you want to be a soccer player, like, how's the game work? How many people play in the world? How big is the business of soccer balls? When's the next soccer stadium? Like, there's a tremendous amount of mentorship if someone's interested in soccer that is really fact-based. I think AI will just eat all of that part of it, like, in short order. Right now, again, you could do all that. You just need to know the prompts to ask. Pretty soon, it'll know you enough to give you and feed you all of that. But the human component of it is, maybe it's going to be like many things in AI. It's not going to be AI is going to replace mentors. Mentors that know AI are going to replace other mentors, because they can all of a sudden mentor 10 times the people that they were before because they're using some of these tools. That's probably the next step. And again, I'm sure we'll use a lot more electricity. I just don't know a lot about that.
Jimmy goes far off. Could you talk a little bit about your mass mentorship tools, or is that
for sure?
Yeah.
So the first one, so I've created several mass mentorship tools, and the whole concept, right, is like one to many, because I had over 1,000 conversations with natural product founders to the point where I couldn't take on any more. And right now I probably take on 20% of the calls that are being requested of me. And so I'm like, how do I touch more people?
That's still a lot, by the way, Mike.
Very impressive.
It fires me up, right? It gives me energy. So that's been 3 years, 1,000 calls. Like you put it together and you go, okay, yeah, that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 calls a week, like every week. So I do, and I still have it on my calendar, but there's more requests just because I put myself out there and people see the value in it. But the first one was, and it started and transitioned into what is now fatafleischman.org. But Greg Fleischman and I, who's also a natural products industry veteran, grown and sold multiple businesses, we were mentoring people and they needed the tools. And I was like, yeah, I'll send you an investment presentation deck template. I have one of those. Oh, I have an HR org chart for onboarding your next CFO. Oh, I have an advisor. How do you structure your advisory board? And I'd be emailing these and Greg would be doing the same thing. And I said, well, wait a sec. Why don't we put all of our tools and templates into like one database and then just give it to people for free, self-serve, so they can come and like go grab whatever you want. And it started off as a Dropbox file, but now it's a full website, fatafleischman.org. So entrepreneurs can go sign up for an account for free and then go departmentally and get all those things. There's over 1,000 forms, tools, and templates that are available. And I already promoted it, but I'd say it again. It was written up in Forbes. There's thousands of entrepreneurs that use it. And so it's one of those things that I say, oh yeah, look at how much impact I'm having. And I hear it from people. Hey, we're using the tools all the time. And people charge for that stuff. And we're like, entrepreneurs already have it hard enough. They do not, and business leaders, they do not need to go and buy a $100 a month membership or something to get some of these tools and templates. And the great part is it's like from two entrepreneurs that have used them to grow businesses to, and be successful in business. So that's a project I'm very proud of. And then, my podcast and this
Mike,
podcast.
I'm sorry for the podcast and tools. Is your slogan for Fata and Fleischman build, scale, exit? Because I can think of another one, but
is it build, scale, exit?
No, it was going to be get effed. But but is that the slogan? I just want to make sure people know where they're going.
They need to go to fatafleischman.org.
This is awesome. Actually,
there's a lot there. You can't go on your mobile. You got to be on a computer to access it all. But there is a tremendous amount there, and again, the best part is it's all for free, like it should be, because mentorship. I'm a believer, and people. I'd love your guys' view, but I'm a big believer that mentorship should be free.
Yes.
And if it's paid, that is coaching or advising, or it's something else besides mentorship. But some people want to charge for mentorship. I'm just I'm not a fan of that. I like mentorship for free. People need it. Where this is a helping others, giving back kind of thing.
Absolutely.
May I ask another question on the kind of the AI side and how to scale it on the mass mentoring tools? How do you, or have you approached the listening aspect of a mentor? Like, because some of that is the subject matter expertise, and there's always a balance, whether it's 99-1, but there's always the SME and then also like the listening, almost like the therapist. Like I'm sure you had it from your board members where you're coming in after a day of talking to Whole Foods buyers and you're like, I got to just vent for a minute before I can actually be a human. How do you see that being able to scale without listening just being silence? Because there's a feeling of being heard that's so important in that mentoring relationship.
Yeah. I'm a little bit more aggressive, like, hey, let's analyze what needs to get done. Let's put an action plan together and let's do the next steps. Okay. So let's not dwell too much on it was a hard day, or dwell too much on like, oh, we had a big win. Like, yes, celebrate those wins and like give yourself a pat on the back, but let's get on to the next things that have to happen. So as a mentor, I'm a quick study in business. I want to understand. People want to ask me questions. What was it like starting Manitoba Harvest? And I'm like, that's 25 years ago. I've started and grown many businesses and helped many businesses. So let's talk about your business, like where you're at right now and what are those challenges that you're facing. But like the whole poor me moment, which we all have them, I get really quick to, hey, pull your socks up and dust yourself off, and then what's next? Next? Like we have limited time here, so like what's your next steps? Because momentum is the most key thing to, if you really want to start growth and you start growing, you want to keep that momentum. You don't want to ever let the momentum die.
No.
So the listening part of that, yeah, there's listening, but there's listening to really understand the situation that the person's in, not to be an emotional therapist or something else, because there's lots of other tools for that, right? And unless you want to be a emotional therapist mentor type, but that's not me.
Do not call Mike if you need an emotional therapist. But speaking of calling Mike, what are some great ways? What are some like phenomenal ways people have reached out, and what are some ways that you're just like, oh my God, I can't even, like, I don't think I'll be able to talk to you.
Oh, well, I don't think I'm going to be able to talk to you is, it happens all the time. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn's the biggest social platform that I spend a lot of time on and sharing, but also connecting there. And people, my biggest pet peeve request or comment is like, I just want to pick your brain. Well, picking my brain. I have a lot of brain. I just don't want it picked. So I highly suggest, if you want to connect with someone, just don't use those words, because I've heard from a lot of other people that's a no-no compared to, a best case scenario. And people can get in touch on social or through my website, or even through contacts like, being out at a trade show or event, or even podcasts like this is, hey, I read a couple of your newsletters, or I listened to one of your podcasts. I liked this part of what you shared. And my business is X, Y, and Z, and we're having these couple 3 questions or challenges of growth. Can I spend 10 minutes or 15 minutes with you to go over those things? Boom. All day long. I'm telling you, all day long, I'll answer those. And even if listeners and you want to hit me up in that way, and you're more likely to get a conversation. And the pick the brain is, I actually don't even respond. And that's very unlikely. But if I do respond, it's like, hey, that's not the best way to ask something of someone,
I love it. So brutal. Hey, Mike, you willing to talk? I'd love to pick your brain.
Yeah.
Reply.
I want to hear all about your story. Well, my story is, there's lots about me on the internet, and I wrote a book. You could read the book, and there's lots of ways to like hear that. But my best use of a half an hour is not to spend that time, because I want to help people that are really ready for help and are very mindful and clear what they need help with.
Oh my God, Mike, you just summed it all up. You summed up everything that we've been trying to talk about for the last 80 episodes. So kudos to you, because literally picking your brain is the number one thing everybody hates. Second is be just clear. Be clear. Like, I don't want to try to guess what you want. What do you want? How long is our conversation? Let's be direct. Let me help you. I'm here for you, but we can't like go on and on forever. So we did an episode last week for new grads, which we will definitely augment last week's episode with this episode and what you just shared with us, because we want new grads to be able to feel like they have some clarity on how they have these conversations.
Mike, I'm still chuckling to myself, because I just like how you're basically writing back to people on LinkedIn, like, do better. Like, come on.
Yeah. No, and not only do better, but like do better. And here's an example, because I want everyone to grow, and everyone's at a different stage. No. So that doesn't mean that they can't go, oh shit, the worst mistake I made was, going to ask 10 people for mentorship and just not doing it the right way, and I go back to like, make friends first, do business second. Well, how do you make friends? Whether that friend is also a customer, whether they're a mentor, whether they're one of your vendors or someone else you're involved with, you got to know something about them and care a little bit about them is the best way to kind of make that initial bridge. Right. And so people can learn from that.
I want to go back to thinking about maybe 50 years from now, and also like how you are adjusting your ability to impact others. The term mentoring has been around a long time. It started back in ancient Greece and mythology. Do you have a different word that you like to use, or maybe even a phrase, or maybe something that could be almost, a goal for how mentoring could become different if we used a different term for it?
Yeah, well, and I'll be careful here, because I do have business outside of my mentorship, but I do growth coaching, and my book is called Grow, but that's how I think about mentorship, is like helping people personally and professionally grow. So taking on some kind of form of that, I think, because that's what really mentorship is all about, right? It's about, it's not telling someone what to do. It's about helping someone be more mindful to what is their next steps for them, what's their next steps for their career, for their business. And to me, that's all about growth. And you can't really do that professional growth if you're not doing your personal growth and your work on your personal self.
Got it. Well,
how was that for like a plug? Does that sound like a plug?
Oh, it was a great plug. We are totally fine with shameless plugs. We're all for it. Like Dunkin' Donuts doesn't even pay us yet, and I had 2 cups of coffee today from there. We're all about it, man. No.
We'll do ads for you for free, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're here for it. Because I'm using all these tools, by the way. And Mike, I am going to hit you up if you don't mind for a 20-minute conversation about my other business.
For sure. Just ask the right question.
Yeah, but Julie, before you write it, you better run your 2 or 3 questions by me first. Let's make sure they're tight.
We'll be
run it by run it by ChatGPT if you're like really on your game.
I'll do both. Cover my bases.
Mike, we're getting towards the end of our conversation. We like to do something that is our kind of a rapid fire association, our verbal Rorschach test here. I got 4 words for you. You've kind of already answered one, the one I start with, so I think this one will be easy. But tell me what the first thing comes to mind when I say the word mentor to you.
A trusted advisor.
How about mentee?
Someone ready to grow.
Bro. How about sponsor?
Someone that'll put their shoulder forward for you.
And coach?
Optimizing performance.
I love it. Have you ever taken one of those different colors tests, like a personality test, and like where you come in? Because you are so into like, you got something, I'm here to help, I'm in for it. I'm going to get dirty with you for 20 or 30 minutes. Let's go. Like that energy is like other than the hot air balloons, which is terrifying, that energy is like phenomenal. I really appreciate what you're bringing.
Yeah. I thank you. I appreciate the compliment. I've studied servant-based leadership and practiced servant-based leadership for a very long time. So even when we were a very big business, and we had a problem, I'd be down sweeping the floors with our team. I go out there and we're in the food business. So like the number one team member was our janitorial staff. And I wasn't afraid to go in the kitchen with them and get dirty and understand what their job is. And as a parent, that's even made me better. So I like it. I don't shy away from the scrappy part, the hard part. I mean, that's where the magic happens.
I love it. Somehow YouTube's figured out that I have a 15-month-old daughter, and they keep feeding me this ad for a washable rug that just starts with, I live with a 15-year-old terrorist or 15-month-old terrorist. Everything is on fire.
Which is like running a food business. It's exactly probably very similar. Mike, I have to be honest, this was the best day ever. It was really such a treat to get to spend this time with you. I really love your tools, and this is really exciting. And we are very happy to share it with our listeners so that they get a chance to be able to use it, and that we will look forward to staying in touch and hearing on your journey. I also, just really appreciated, to Jimmy's point, like the directness and being able to really show up and help people, because that's what we're here to do. And I love spending the time with you today, Mike. Thank you. Wow, Jimmy, I'm wiped out talking to Mike. That was intense.
I'm not sure if it was intense or more Mike just brought such a disciplined growth mindset. And I don't mean growth to business necessarily, but self-growth, such a clear, insatiable desire to learn. And once he felt he's achieved mastery or close to, he wants to give back to others.
It was total clarity. The feeling I imagine you must have when you get into a very cold plunge, which I have not done, but would be willing to. But that clarity of like, here's what I'm here to do. I'm here to help you grow. And I will be incredibly generous with my time. I will be there for you. And we're here for you to grow. So I love that. I got so much out of this conversation. He's incredible.
I will also try to start using the term nibble more often. I really liked how I usually kind of describe it as like poke and prod yourself to figure something out. But Mike's kind of idea of nibble was such a good way of like a food founder talking about, how to be reflexive themselves. It was just perfect and spot on.
Yeah. I love that. And then I was thinking so much about his, what we pulled out for his connect better, make friends first, do business second. And I think something you and I talk about is that in business, you just want to be with people that you like being with. Why do a job where you're surrounding yourself by people that you do not look forward to spending time with? Not saying every moment is, joy and frolicking through the fields, you're working, but making those connections as a friend first before you jump into the business, I think is brilliant. And that's the first time I'd heard it that way. I love that.
I mean, Mike approaches relationships just differently. Obviously, he had a fantastic mentor in his mom, and that ability to see people as people, not people as numbers, and start in that way is one of the many signs of why he has been so successful in his business and why he's been so successful now in helping others.
And I loved how he said his mom saw in him this sort of clarity and vision that he has, like looking into the future, which I kind of wanted to probe on whether or not he is clairvoyant or if he can see things that we can't see yet, which would be really cool. And also why vision, but he has the vision inside him, but he also uses habits to make things come to life, such as making time on your calendar and sitting and really thinking about what is your best day ever. We did not get to do the exercise together with Mike, but Jimmy, what is your best day ever? I'm sure you thought about it.
Well, Julie, I don't want to, potentially throw shade on your parade, but I think it'd be in a very quiet place with a couple basketball courts.
Just basketball all day, morning to night.
Probably not morning to night. I can't handle that anymore. But those used to be the best days ever.
I mean, you could be a professional basketball player, Jimmy. That would
No,
definitely.
I definitely couldn't. My best day ever is a decent amount of sleep, which I think most people actually forget, and spending time with family. I mean, when you have a young child that's happy and healthy, there's nothing more special or more fun, especially for people that are kids at heart. So running around a park with little Fiona would be up there.
Aw, yeah. Well, I think that's great. But also, I think Mike's point was that how do you make your work day your best day ever? So
No, but that's work day. I took it as every day. I took it that Mike was even looking, and I bet that goes through volunteering on weekends. Like, I didn't see that as like 5 days out of 7. That was Mike's schedule. I saw that as Mike was really making sure he was intentional daily, and that as an engineer, I totally feel this. If you're not building, at some point, homeostasis becomes a problem, even in best day ever. So he obviously feels fulfillment through the assistance of others.
Yeah.
Through assisting others.
Yeah, definitely. I think I saw it a little bit differently, but that's good. I think I liked how he really spelled out the elements of a day. Yeah, for me, it was like a sort of the sustainability of professional sustainability and personal sustainability, and being able to marry them both so that you have what you need as a professional, which is money of some kind, as well as creating that homeostasis. So, but it got me thinking for sure, definitely about the sleep and the exercise. And like, I love that idea of 4 to 5 dedicated hours of work, because I think the idea that you can do like 8 straight hours of work is kind of bonkers. So I think having that really, straight focus of 4 to 5 hours was like really resonated with me, especially when you're working remotely. Like, you don't have chit chat in the, hallway and all that. Like, 8 straight hours of work is a lot. So I loved that. And I think it's a great exercise for people to think about what makes their sort of best day and how can they have it every day if they can. And then, vision. That guy had like focus on growth, like a vision on how to mentor others in a way that I don't think I feel like we really heard that.
It was just so simple and clear, and I'm here for it, and no other BS. And the quote that's been bouncing around in my head, which to me is a great starter for how to help find your vision in a mentoring relationship that you might be entering, is what Mike's mom told him and he shared with us. That quote of, "No one is special, but we are all special." I know that is an excellent way to start figuring out, what do you want out of life? Where are you going to fit? What kind of communities do you want to be part of? What kind of people do you want to be with? What kind of changes do you want to see happen? So meditating on a term like that, spending time with it, wrestling with it for 4 to 5 hours one day, it's going to come together.
And that, like, you can do whatever you set. It sounded a bit like also you can do whatever you set your mind to do. Like, there's nothing unique about a person who is able to do somewhat of these incredible things. We can all do it, or we could all not do it at the same time. The other thing that Mike laid out, which, I mean, come on, what a perfect layout of the perfect way to approach a mentor. So clear, so spelled out, a great way, a template to follow. And I 100% believe Mike, because I reached out to him and we already have a 20-minute call set up, that if you approach him that way, I don't think it matters who you are or what you're doing. He will absolutely get on the phone with you for 20 minutes, but definitely approach him the way he laid out, which makes a ton of sense. So I appreciated that clarity as well.
AugMentors out there, bring it, be ready.
100%, 100%. And, let's have our best day ever.
Best day ever. And what if it wasn't kind candor as a different term for mentoring, but instead like a kind condor, that you would have big arms like the bird to really wrap,
Serious wingspan. I think that's something we both have in common.
second jumpability. Yeah.
AugMentors
AugMentors out.
Wow, you've made it this far, and we thank you. Hopefully, you enjoyed our episode and discovered new ways to bring more authentic connection into your mentoring relationships. Want to tell them more, Jimmy?
Be an augmenter with us. Visit our website for the best interactive mentoring content at augmentors.us. Share our podcast with someone you care about. Like and subscribe. And yes, really, you following our show and writing a review, it's a big deal. Your actions provide us with the resources to continue our undefeated, unencumbered, prize-winning productions. We welcome questions and suggestions via email hi@augmentors.us or on social with our handle @AugmentorsHQ. We are most active and available on LinkedIn and YouTube. Shout out and earnest thank you to our intrepid producer, Erlin Cato. We appreciate you. AugMentors out.
See ya.